Welcome, everybody, to a special edition of All In with Art Stapleton, a New York Giants podcast brought to you by NorthJersey.com and The Record. We are here recording live in Florham Park, New Jersey, the home of the New York Jets, and the first day of the home-and-home joint practice sessions between the Giants and Jets is over. We have observations from today, so let's get right to it. Couple stars of the day. Theo Johnson, Giants second-year tight end, thought he had his best day of the summer. Wrote about Theo early in training camp and then have gotten a lot of questions. Where's Theo been? Well, he was very active today against the Jets defense, made several medium to deep catches with the first and second team offense, both from Russell Wilson and from Jackson Dart. So let's go on the offensive side first. Talked about Theo Johnson as a star. Defensive side of the ball, Brian Burns was outstanding today. But since I spent most of the first part of the practice watching the Giants offense, let's talk about that. 7-on-7s, the ball didn't touch the ground. Russell Wilson, 4 for 4. Jackson Dart, 3 for 3. They looked very good in 7-on-7, working in space. At the same time, on the same field, you had the offensive defensive lines for the Giants offensive line, Jets defensive line doing one-on-one drills. So Marcus Bowe looked very good. That was really, John Runyon had a couple good one-on-one reps, but other than that, it was really a standstill there. So setting the scene here, once they went away from the one-on-one drills, you had the Jets offense versus the Giants defense on the main field. Then you had the Giants offense versus the Jets defense on the secondary field, which are really two parallel fields here in Florham Park. So what that does is we try to take it's a perch or a patio that's up high that you could actually try to see both fields, and really was able to do that for the most part today, which was good. And then after the team drills, I think it was about 3 or 4 sessions on each field, they had a special teams, I believe it was punt return for the Giants, punt coverage for the Jets. And then they bring everybody, all 90 men of each roster, onto the main field, and they did a move the ball red zone period. And that was really the highlight of the day for the Giants offense. In between, there was a lot of sputtering from the Giants offense. Now, they were running the ball well. Tyrone Tracy, Devin Singletary, and Turbo Miller all ran the ball well, first and second team. Singletary really was the highlight. He ran very well on the inside, popped a big run that probably could have gone for about a 50-yard touchdown if they weren't thudding and they were actually tackling. But the offense struggled a little bit. No Malik Neighbors here. Darius Slayton was really on a pitch count today. The only team drills he participated in were the red zone. And, Russell Wilson really didn't get into much of a rhythm. I think at one point he was 2 of 8. This was well before the red zone drills. Jets were having their way really up front early on. Jay, I guess it's Tufele, but I should have gotten his pronunciation. The defensive tackle for the Jets really steamrolled Greg Van Roten at one point and was in the backfield and nearly toppled over Russell Wilson. Essentially, Russell Wilson ended up sitting on top of one of the offensive linemen. So up to that point, you would say it was a negative day for the passing game for the Giants. The run game was very good, and Theo Johnson was the one bright spot. Now, Jackson Dart, I liked a lot what I saw of Jackson Dart in the second team drills. Again, the same things keep showing up. The pocket awareness, the ability to move around the pocket and navigate the pocket while looking downfield. He hit Theo Johnson for about a 40-yard gain, which was a sweet play from Dart. There were several plays where Dart, picking his way through the pocket, through traffic, throwing the ball. One he had to Montreal Washington, which was a very nice play. So overall, I think Jackson Dart had the best day of any of the Giants quarterbacks. Now, again, it's the competition, it's the second team. But what you like about Jackson Dart at this point is he's showing you consistency and consistent growth as a player, and I think that's what stands out. So let's get to the highlights of the Giants, and you could talk about the defense. The defensive front really stood up early on. The Jets, I'd say the first period, it took the Giants a little bit to get going. Justin Fields had a good first period. They played well in 7-on-7, but obviously without the Giants' strength of this team on the field in 7-on-7, it's going to look a lot differently. You get out there, and Brian Burns, you see number 0 for the Giants, chasing Justin Fields all over the field. Abdul Carter had a sack. There was one series where Brian Burns would have had 2 sacks. He came in clean. Then Abdul Carter would have had a sack, and Dexter Lawrence chased Justin Fields to the sideline. Now, Dex is still getting into game shape. They're working him back, being very smart with Dexter Lawrence, and that's a good thing. You don't want to lose your best player in the summer. We still don't have much of a feel on Malik Neighbors. I know a lot of people are asking about him. My sense is that it's essentially put Malik in bubble wrap. We've seen everything we want to see from Malik. So let's ease him back for whatever he might be dealing with, and let's not risk anything. So until I hear otherwise about this being a serious situation with Malik, I would just go by the idea of the Giants are just trying to be smart and see what they can do. So when you go down to the red zone drills, we all went down into the corner, and the Giants' first team offense had the ball first. Russell Wilson, James Hudson came off after one of the team periods on the opposite field, and he didn't look, I don't know what it was. I almost thought that maybe he got some dirt in his eye because he was walking with the training staff to go inside. And at that point in my mind, I'm thinking, okay, who are they going to put in at left tackle? Or are they going to put Marcus Bowe at left tackle and then have Illuminor at right tackle? What were they going to do? Well, it didn't matter because by the time the red zone drills started up, James Hudson was back on the field and he was back out there at left tackle. Offensive line played well in the red zone drills. At one point early after the initial team drills, the offense came off in a big huddle, and you could hear Jameis Winston kind of imploring the offense to get going, to step up and put out some urgency at that point. And talking to Javon Holland afterwards from a defensive perspective, but I said this to Brian Dable, both the Jets and the Giants today, they're coming off of Saturday in their first preseason game. Neither team had been back on the field until today from their preseason game. So you kind of wondered how the emotions were going to play out early on. And what happened, I think, the Jets grabbed advantage after the 7-on-7s, and then the red zone drills. Now, what impressed me about the red zone drills, Russell Wilson's pass to Theo Johnson. Not only did the Giants get a first down on the drive, but Russell Wilson fired a strike. Some people said it was a back shoulder for Theo Johnson. I thought it was just a dart, not Jackson, but a dart from Russell Wilson. And split the 2 defenders, the safety and the corner. And Theo Johnson got the touchdown. The next play was Devin Singletary. Nice run, clean, good blocking. Wasn't a thud situation, and he was able to get in the end zone. That's a legit score. It wasn't one of those, the guy bounces off of tackles or would-be tackles and then gets in the end zone. That was a legit touchdown for Devin Singletary. And then the last touchdown of the Giants' first-team offense in red zone was a crossing pattern in the back of the end zone to Darius Slayton. Nice to see Slayton back in the night. It's also good to see the Giants easing Slayton back in after he missed some time last week, didn't play on Saturday. Just be smart about it. And Slayton caught the touchdown. The Giants offense really felt like they found some momentum there from the first team. Then the second team came out, second team offense, Jackson Dart. Couple nice plays in the flat to get the ball inside the 10. And then Dart threw a back shoulder to Zach Pascal. And it was good coverage by the Jets, but Dart put the ball exactly where it needed to be. Pascal completed the catch, kind of juggled it with one hand, and then pulled it in. And nifty footwork. Nate Burleson would be proud. It wasn't toe drag swag, it was toe tap swag. And Pascal right in front of where we were standing, and no videoing in this part of practice. So we're not sure, to me in real time, it looked like he got it, that he got his second foot down inside the line. Didn't seem like the Jets were really complaining about it. So I think that was a perfect touchdown by Zach Pascal. Now, what I noticed is the Giants are celebrating, Dart's celebrating, happy that the play was completed. As Dart turns around to head back to the Giants sideline, Brian Daboll kind of stepped in his viewpoint, pointed at him, smiling like that meme of Robert De Niro from Analyze This with Billy Crystal. If you haven't seen that movie, you should watch it. It's a great movie. But it was almost like you could tell Daboll was fired up not only by the decision that Dart made, but by the throw. And then obviously Pascal completes the catch for a touchdown. So a good finish for the Giants offense here today. You hope that it carries through to tomorrow and they have better team periods before the red zone gets going the way it did today. Now, defensively, I was watching from afar, talking to some reporters that were here and seeing with my own eyes. Brian Burns was outstanding. I mean, I mentioned Theo Johnson as the player on offense that really stood out to me today. Brian Burns stood out to me defensively. He was all over the place. I wrote that column on Abdul Carter, and Brian Burns has been a great advocate for Abdul Carter, has given a lot of great quotes. So I've updated the Abdul Carter column, but had to mention Brian Burns in that. So Burns was great. It was good to see Dexter Lawrence plug in the middle. I mean, it's such a difference when Lawrence is in the middle of the field. Roy Robertson Harris, I thought, did pretty well today against the Jets. And Abdul Carter would have had a sack. There was a series where Brian Burns would have had 2 sacks. Abdul Carter had a sack. And Darius Alexander would have had a sack. Now, Alexander was pretty quiet on Saturday in the preseason game. And I thought it showed pretty well Alexander what he can do when he's at his best. And Alexander had a sack. It was one of those, he ran right to Justin Fields, threw his hands up. You knew he had a sack. They continued the play, but it would have been a sack for the rookie. So that was obviously a good thing. A couple things of note to watch when we come back for tomorrow. Tay Banks came off late. He was with the ones with Paulson Adebo on the first team, and then they started mixing and matching and seeing who could play that other spot. So we'll see what happens, because already Trey Hawkins is down and Cordell Flott is down. So I think we're getting, and I mentioned this in a story on NorthJersey.com, might be time for the Giants to start looking for a CB2 just for depth purposes. Yeah, Nick Jones inside in the nickel for Drew Phillips, who did not play today, did not practice today. Little technical difficulties forced us to relocate here in Florham Park. So we're a little bit a ways from the Jets facility. So we apologize, but Paul Wood and I are all in. So we are going to finish this show strong, kind of like the way the Giants offense finished today's joint session with the Jets. We talked to 3 players afterwards: Russell Wilson, Dexter Lawrence, and Javon Holland. Interesting note from Dexter Lawrence that I included in my column on Abdul Carter that you need to go check out. Did a big takeout on Abdul today. So Dex, it's kind of funny how he, was asked about Abdul Carter on the first day of camp, and Dex was kind of like, well, we'll see. He's a rookie. He was asked today what he thought of Abdul Carter, and he laughed and he goes, I don't know. We'll see. And then he had this devilish, villainous laugh like the Giants already know what we all know, is that Abdul Carter is a problem for anyone who plays this team. And that showed up again today. But I want to go to Jevon Holland, and he talked afterwards. If you've checked out my social media, I put the video up today. I want to give a special shout out to my daughter, Marianne, whose birthday, 17 today. We will be coming home and celebrating tonight. But Jevon Holland, we were able to take Marianne to camp last week, so she met a lot of the players. It's kind of been her tradition. And Jevon Holland came over and sang happy birthday. They had never met before. But check out that video. I put it up on Instagram, on X, and on TikTok. It's art_Stapleton on Twitter and Instagram. And it's just straight across Art Stapleton on TikTok. I think you'll enjoy the video, the singing talents of Jevon Holland, and the dancing talents of my daughter. So again, happy birthday, and a hat tip to Jevon Holland for doing that. But also, Holland made a point today. I asked him about the pressure, if you're in the back covering, and he said, look, he goes, we know when the ball's coming out fast. We can feel it back there. And it was again today. The Giants were all over Justin Fields. So that wraps up day one of the home and home joint practice sessions here in Florham Park. We'll be back at the friendly confines of the Quest Diagnostic Center in the shadow of MetLife Stadium tomorrow. Game time, 10 a.m., Brian Dable at 9:30. So until then, thanks to Paul Wood, we are all in. We appreciate you being all in as well. Check out all our coverage of the New York Giants from not only today, but moving forward at northjersey.com and the print editions of the Record. So thanks for tuning in. Appreciate. We'll see you tomorrow.